Hey, good morning. Good morning. How's how are people doing this morning? If you can tell by my voice, it is doing a lot better. And of course, now Spanky wants to go outside. You know, up here in Northwest Florida, it's cold. It got down to 20 degrees the past couple of nights. It has been so cold during the day. We have a water dish out in the yard, out in the front patio here, front concrete decking, that we keep filled with water so that when Spanky goes outside and he gets thirsty, he can he can have something to drink as he wishes. Well, it froze solid the other night. So the wife, not we, but the wife, dumped it out. So we've got had this big block of ice sitting in the on the patio. No big deal. It'll melt. It's been back out there now for 2.5 days. Actually, a little bit over 2.5 days. It's been sitting there. It hasn't melted. Does that tell you how cold it's been down here? Our master bath was an add-on to the house, and therefore it has no direct heat to it. Whatever heat it gets is through the open door. Well, I bought a little space heater that I was going to take into work to keep the office area warm because the two space heaters that they have there just don't cut it. So I bought a little space heater. It's been sitting in our bathroom, plugged in, running basically 24/7, and I've got it set at 78 degrees because I want it to keep not just the bathroom warm, but I want the heat to get into the where because it's got that flex tubing for the water lines. It doesn't have the standard PVC piping, which is no problem. I mean, I like the idea of that flex tubing, except it's an add-on to the house. I'm not certain how well insulated it is because of the simple fact that the those walls are in the summertime the walls themselves are hot, and obviously in the wintertime these walls are cold. So rather than keeping water running 24/7, I figure it's a little bit cheaper just to have that space heater running in there at 80 degrees, 79, 80 degrees, keep that bathroom very, very warm. Plus, I found it's rather nice getting out of the shower into a warm room and not into a cold room or even a cool room. So, but yeah, I mean, I get up in the morning and, wife gets her shower, gets dressed, leaves for work. I go back, I take my morning pills, I get my shower, get dressed, and put on a bathrobe to keep warm. Because even though we've got the thermostat set at, we keep the thermostat set at 68 degrees. Don't want to run the electric bill too damn high. So, yeah, put on my heavy wool bathrobe and keep that thing on to keep warm. So, yeah, here in Northwest Florida, up there in the Panhandle, Lower Alabama, as it's sometimes called, it's colder than a well digger's butt. My cat he goes back and I'll turn on my electric blanket for him, and he'll sleep on my electric blanket during the day. He'll lay curled up, or not even curled up, but sprawled out across my electric blanket to absorb as much heat off of that as he can. It's nuts watching that cat, you know. But he wants to stay warm. Spanky, he's got his own blanket that he curl. He'll come over on the couch and curl up underneath. So yeah, I am so glad I got that. The wife's even talking about maybe she's going to get herself an electric blanket for her side of the bed, which I've been telling her for years she needs one, but she sleeps a lot hotter than I do. Okay. I've come to the fact that I actually have to sleep with socks on, or else my feet get so cold. No matter what, that I can't get any sleep. Well, the protests are still the news of the day. And evidently, Trump and Tim Walz have come to an agreement. Not that long ago, Tim Walz was out there telling the people of Minneapolis and Minnesota to go out and protest, to get into the faces of the ICE, to go out and, protect their neighbors, protect their illegal neighbors who are committing a federal crime every day that they're here in the country. Protect them. Don't let them be arrested. Do everything you can to inhibit the ICE agents. And now he's got the Minnesota State Police out there arresting these same protesters that he bragged about and told to go out and protest. The same people that he told to go out and raise hell, he is now arresting. Now, I'm getting a lot of hate mail, particularly on, because while I'm laying in bed or laying on the couch trying to get feeling better, I'm on social media. And one of the things I constantly say, don't come to me asking for sympathy if you're out there protesting, inhibiting the ICE agents from doing their job, going up and spitting in their faces, kicking their cars, encroaching in their area of operations. If you want to protest, which is your First Amendment right to do, stay back, stay out of their faces, yell and scream and wave your signs and say all the nasty words you want. But once you get in their face, once you approach them, I've got no sympathy for what happens to you. Especially after they tell you to back up. When they tell you to back up and you don't. And if you're carrying a gun, and you all know I'm a very firm believer in the Second Amendment, very strong believer. But if you're planning to go to a protest and you're planning on being one of these idiots that are going out there and getting into the faces of the cops, you're going to be one of those hero protesters. Leave your gun at home. Leave it at home. Because if you even touch it by accident and you get shot, I've got no sympathy for you. I'm not even saying if you draw it, if you pull it from your holster, if you even touch it and they shoot you and you die, it's your own damn fault. I've got no sympathy for you. The only sympathy I have for your family is that they married a dumbass. That your wife married a dumbass, that you did that. That your children have got a dumbass for a father. That your mother and father raised a dumbass. That your brothers and sisters have a dumbass for a brother or sister. You are the definition of a dumbass. If you take a firearm of any kind into a hostile situation like these protests are, and you get involved in this hostile protest at the front of it, and you're within arm's reach of one of these agents, and you even touch that firearm, that's asking to be shot. No ifs, no ands, or buts about it. And I've got absolutely zero sympathy for you. And if I were ever to be put on a jury where an ICE agent was there and they showed you up there in that, and they showed you within 5 feet of one of those agents, and you got shot, too bad, so sad. That's your own damn fault. And I will have absolutely no sympathy for you whatsoever because you're a dumbass and you proved that you were a dumbass. You are the definition of a dumbass. All right. So, that should right there explain my opinion. Another thing that I get that some hate mail over is, you know, deport all illegals. I don't care how long they've been here. Deport them. No, they don't get to go before a judge. You're not here legally. It's deportation. You don't get to whine and cry and say, well, I've been here for 20 years. I don't care. I don't care if you came here as a 5-year old. If you're here illegally, you need to be deported back to your home country. If you're here under temporary refuge status, temporary is the key word. Go home. And I keep hearing about these. Well, they pay taxes, and they also are a drain on public services. They're a drain on our school systems. They're a drain on public services. Y'all know my work. I've said it before. My wife works for a quasi-governmental agency because the government pays for a bunch of the daycare expenses. She works in a daycare. Because of the high influx of Spanish speaking children and Spanish only speaking adults, they had to hire Spanish speaking teachers. The problem is that some of these teachers they've hired don't speak any English. They only speak Spanish. So they had to hire translators. Now, these people are government funded. The translators are government funded. The Spanish only speaking teachers are government funded. Why? If these people are here legally, why is the government paying for their daycare? Why is the government paying for Spanish speaking only teachers and Spanish translators? Why? That's our tax dollars, people. And if there's an emergency there and a child is hurt, these Spanish only teachers can't tell us, can't tell the English speaking teachers, such as my wife who doesn't speak any Spanish, can't tell them what's going on. And we can't tell them, the English can't tell them what's going on because they don't understand. They have to go and get a translator to come in to translate from Spanish to English and English to Spanish. Now, they don't have a translator for every classroom. They've got about 20 different classrooms just in the building that my wife's in. Now, I don't know how many translators they have, I'll be honest. That I don't know. But I do know that they don't have one for every classroom. This is absolutely ridiculous that this is the way it is. This is the United States of America, people. Am I America first? Yes. Am I an advocate of bringing people in and making them learn English? Yes. Florida, I believe, is the first state in the country to starting yesterday to get a driver's license. Everything is done in English. Nothing, absolutely nothing is done in Spanish or any other foreign language. You absolutely have to be able to take your written test in English. When you take your driving test, it has to be done in English. My son just got his CDL not too long ago. He was an absolute wreck studying and preparing for the driving test. He drove as, you know, with a student driver's license, where he had to have a fully licensed driver with him. He had over 300 miles of driving a Class A vehicle, an 18 wheeler, in like 5 days. The written test was over 300 questions. And then he had to drive to another part of the state, to another city, to take the final exam. He couldn't even take the final exam here locally. He had to drive halfway across the state to take the final exam. That is a good thing. This test, the way he described it, if you can't follow English fluently, you're not going to get your CDL. And I think that's a good thing. That's the way it should be. That is absolutely wonderful. Now, there's some idiot out there that's getting some publicity here lately because he's going into the heart of these anti ICE, pro immigrant, pro illegal immigrant areas, and raising and giving speeches and and anti-protest protests and such. And he's gotten his ass whipped a couple of times. The problem I have with him, and while I agree with some of what he says, I absolutely disagree with him, and I will not associate myself with him. I won't even mention his name. Because he is spreading hate, what I would consider hate speech. He is considering, he is saying that the United States is for white Americans only. And I strongly disagree with that. It is for Americans. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what your ethnic background is. And for the most part, I don't care what religion you practice. Though I admittedly, extremely wary of Muslims. Because I see how Muslim countries are run. I see what happened in Iran when it became a Muslim country. I see how Christians are treated in Muslim countries. So I do not trust Muslims. But other than that, I don't care what religion, for most part, I don't care what religion you practice. It's like I give a side eye to voodoo worshippers. I give a sideward glance to them people too. The ones that slaughter chickens and as part of their religion. But until they start, but they don't have the historical past and recent history past that Islamists have. And no, it's not their skin color or the country they come from that concerns me. It's their religion itself and the way it is practiced that concerns me. Excuse me there, people. I apologize for that. But I get hate. I get some hate comments about that too. And yes, there's those, you know, the leftists go to watch his shorts and the comments made by the leftists, how they want to kill. Somebody needs to step up and take one for the team, and people will put money on their books. Nurses and doctors and anesthesiologists saying that they won't treat anybody that voted for Trump. Labor and delivery nurses saying that they hope Levitt, the White House spokeswoman, has the world's worst delivery and is split wide open and can never defecate normally again for the rest of her life. People accusing Usha Vance of purposely getting pregnant because she's afraid JD's going to run off with Erica Kirk. And other people, how could you let that man impregnate you while pretending to be throwing up at the thought of it? The leftists are the most violent people ever in our country. How many protests were there during the Biden years against Biden and Democrats? How many? How many were there against Obama? Violent protests where fires were started, cars were vandalized, store windows were broken. How many were there? I can't. There was one. And boy, the Democrats love breaking that. Look how mean and violent the Republicans were on January 6th. They've got one. And that's it. But look at the Democrats. Look at the violence the Democrats have been for the past 10 years. Let's just go back to Trump's first run for office. With all the protests against Trump, and the media came to Trump and said, "What are you going to do to stop these protesters?" How are you going to modify your speeches so we don't have all these violent protests? They were blaming Trump for the protests, which we later come to find out that these protests were done on the behest of Hillary Clinton in her campaign. We know that these protests now are being done by the Democrats. Some, one of them being a former staff member of Tim Walz himself. We've got school principals and teachers taking school kids out during school hours to protest and not informing the parents that they're going to do it. Every teacher that got and every school employee that was involved in taking them school kids out to protest needs to be fired. They need to be criminally charged for endangering the lives of those students. They need to be criminally charged. They need to lose their licenses. It's not the school's position to be teaching kids what political positions they're supposed to take. And don't let these leftists out there fool you. They sit there and they say, well, the Republicans are against immigrants. No, we're not against immigrants. We're against illegal immigrants. They always forget to use the term illegal. They sit there and say, well, no person's illegal. If they crossed the border illegally, they did. If they didn't follow our laws, they're in the country illegally. Therefore, they're an illegal immigrant. Just like the person that goes in and robs a bank is a bank robber. The person that goes in and takes a bunch of stuff from a store and doesn't pay it for it is a shoplifter. You steal a car, you're a car thief. You kill somebody, you're a murderer. You take somebody's child that's not yours or you don't have the legal right to have, you're a kidnapper. And when those teachers took them students from the place they were supposed to be inside the schoolhouse, they kidnapped them children. Them teachers were only authorized to have their students inside the schoolhouse, inside their classroom. They weren't authorized to take them kids out of the classroom and out to a protest. Parents didn't give them permission to do that. That's not part of the curriculum. That has absolutely nothing to do with reading, writing, and arithmetic in American history and world history. Taking them kids out to protest, regardless of what their parents think, without their parents' permission. Now, my understanding is that the principal's likely to be fired. At least that's the rumor I've heard from several people on the internet. I can't find anything news article wise to say that. But if he or she hasn't been fired, then they should be. If he or she hasn't had criminal charges pressed against them, they should be. If their licenses to be a principal involved as an educator hasn't been pulled yet, that should be. You do not understand the amount of hell I would bring down on a school, on a principal or a teacher that took my son out of school, out of the place of safety that he was supposed to be in, transport him somewhere else in order to protest, especially if they were protesting against what I believe in. That hell would rain down on that school that day. And I would be bringing lawsuits against the school. And I hope parents of those students bring lawsuits. Every parent, regardless of whether or not they agreed with the position that the school had taken or that these teachers had taken. I hope every one of them sue the school district for endangering their children, for taking them out of the place of safety without the parents' permission. What would have happened if one of them children had gotten pepper sprayed or worse? Again, to my knowledge, I don't think anything happened to any of the children. But once the faculty of that school escorted them children off school grounds to lead a protest, as far as I'm concerned, them teachers, that school faculty broke the law. And I'd be doing my damnedest to file kidnapping charges against them because they took my children someplace that I did not approve of them taking them. They did not have my permission to take them there. Because I would never give my permission for them to take a child out to active protest. So, anyway, people, that's going to be my rant for the day. You all have a good one. Oh, what happened Friday is my wife was sicker than a dog. She'd been up since, well, she was up at 2:30 being sick, and I was up with her. And I finally got her to, she napped throughout the day. I mean, I even went out to where she worked and dropped off supplies and such that she'd brought home with her that needed over that needed to go back. So I was too busy babying my wife as she was trying to get feeling better. So, but y'all have a good one, and I'll do my best just to be back tomorrow. Okay.